Hello, I'm Max from 7th Memory, and welcome back to Devlog number 5. I'm really excited for this episode because over the last 2 weeks, we got a lot done. If you've seen the video from last week, you've probably seen a little bit of it in the footage that was shown, but today I'll talk a little more about it and show off some more things that weren't shown last week. Over these last 2 weeks, of course, I always got some more art done, and this was particularly mostly just for like new items and tile sets at this point. Moreover, you might notice that the UI for the little buttons in the corner looks a little different. We kind of wanted the button layout that Other has where it shows the face buttons very clearly, but we want to have the simplicity of the Link's Awakening Link to the Past UI, just because it's simple and doesn't really distract from the main gameplay. So this was kind of what we have for now. It's probably going to change in the future at some point, but I think it looks pretty nice for now, and it keeps it pretty simple. In addition, there were a lot of various bug fixes, there's no separate room transition object anymore, and a lot of things got simplified and fixed. In addition, we also started creating items and skills. As you'll see in this footage, there's 2 different types of lanterns you can equip, a glide skill and a jump. They're a lot of fun to mess around with, so it was really cool to create them. And it means that we can start making puzzles that leverage these mechanics. On a related note, one of the big things I worked on was fixing pits. Before, pits were really glitchy, and the respawn position wasn't always correct or safe. You'd also be kind of snapped to the nearest tile, and it wouldn't really look as smooth as we would like. You could also end up in loops of falling that you wouldn't be able to escape, and these issues were mostly due to us using floor, ceiling, or rounding carelessly. This new system just basically looks at each individual coordinate and checks if they're aligned with the bounds of the pit. If they're not, it'll kind of snap you and move you towards the pit, and then it'll calculate where you should end up based on where you started falling into the pit. And depending on if you're facing and if you start touching the pit in the middle, such as if you glide or don't quite make the jump, you'll be moved to the start of the pit. This was done in order mostly to stop people from cheesing the pits by getting far enough that they would get snapped to the end. There's a little bit more bug fixing to be done on this. There's really a rare loop you can enter, but for now it's pretty alright. One of the other big things we worked on that adds a lot to our game and is part of this big visual upgrade that we got was the weather systems. So one of the big things I worked on was this rain effect, and it was really inspired by A Link to the Past. The actual raindrop particles were very inspired by this video I found by Single-Minded Ryan, which I kind of used as a base for our effect. I also looked at the Link to the Past rain effect and made a little raindrop animation that's also emitted by a separate set of particles. Now we're able to create areas that have decent looking rain. One of the other things that we've had kind of done for a while but really got to leverage with all these different effects that we now have is this fog and cloud cover effect. It's essentially noise layered with various settings, and I'll probably go into it in a future video about our shaders, but you're able to lighten or darken it to create a mist effect, and you can also set different settings for the clouds and the mist to make the mist more thin and stringy but have the clouds be a little thicker. There's also a color rect that overlays on top of the screen to create a little darkness effect for night and also thunder. It looks really good, and the thunder isn't too bright, but I think it's just bright enough that you can kind of notice it, but it doesn't take away or seem too bright. One of the other things I got done by making another shader was the darkness/light effect. So this allows us to create dark areas where you have a little circle radius around your character where you can see which lanterns and other items can interact with, as well as all interactables in the scene that can emit light. Essentially how this works is that we can get a list of all the interactables in the scene, check if they emit light, get that radius, check their on-screen position as well, and send that data to the shader. Then we also have to send the player screen position and the current player's light radius to the shader. Then from there, we're just able to render it all with math with a couple for loops, and it looks pretty good. I'm really proud of how it came out, and it allows us to create a couple more puzzles and just have different areas feel really different. One of the last things I'll show is this fort area I started working on. This is going to be kind of like a little puzzle room where the party has to lower this drawbridge here, and this is achieved by going on the left and right sides and solving a little puzzle in the forest. Then the main meat of this chapter will start. Not too much is done, but I also did some testing with pits here that you'll be able to see. I think it looks really good. I'm really proud of the water tiles and just all the effects coming together. I think our game looks very different from when we first started this Devlog series, and I'm really excited where we'll go from here. As for what's next, one of the big things I've been working on is the JRPG battle system. This is one of the systems that we'll have for our battle system where you can choose how you play, and I've been trying to work on it a lot and overhaul what we had before in order to make it pretty functional. It's not fully implemented yet, but I'll show some footage of what I've been working on and how it looks right now. Some of the other things I still have to work on are NPCs and just general pathfinding, overhauling our dialogue system still with portraits and sound stuff, and working on the overworld pause menus, but those aren't too important yet until we have the battle system to tie everything together. One last thing I'll mention is that there's a Substack post coming out tomorrow. This will provide a general overview of what we've done over the last month, and all have put a lot of time into writing. So if you're interested, feel free to check it out. There's some stuff in there that wasn't mentioned in these videos, so it's definitely worth checking out. Olive will see you next week with a new video. I'll see you the week after that, probably talking about some of the battle system stuff so far, and thank you so much for watching. See you!